Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. A little instant reaction to Michigan taking care of business at home against Ohio State, 30-24 victory. Fired up would be an understatement. Dill, this is what college football is about. Like, as a Michigan fan, Ohio State fans feel the same way. Your year revolves around this weekend, this Saturday. Michigan able to get it done for the third straight year in a row. And my first takeaway, just this team feels special. Like Zach Zinner goes down with a gross injury. Prayers to him and hoping he gets right. The next play, they go for a 22-yard touchdown to Blake Corum. That just speaks to how special this team is. The boys are fired up. A little instant reaction before we do. Just want to say thank you to you guys and a shout out to the Michigan fans. Like, this has been a wild season. You guys have always shown a ton of love, a ton of support to the fellas. Cannot thank you guys enough. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, let's hear it in the comment section. Massive victory for the boys. Dill, going to give you the here. Brother, where you want to start?
I mean, honestly, I know his numbers aren't going to show crazy numbers, but like having a quarterback of the ilk of JJ McCarthy, you just feel the difference it's made in these last couple of years. And again, we've had decent quarterbacks. Cade was solid. Some guys before him could play okay, but you never had that guy who could, in those huge, huge moments, make that throw to a Roman Wilson or make that running play up the sideline. Like,
how about across the body to Cornelius Johnson? Like,
crazy play.
JJ McCarthy's playmaking, he has that it factor. And I don't know how to describe the it factor, but I know it because JJ has it. When the game matters the most, and you had so many Michigan fans nervous, oh, JJ needs to clean it up heading into this game, bad game against Maryland. Like, you're not worried for a second because this guy, when the stakes are the highest, the moment's the brightest, JJ McCarthy, the leader of this Michigan team, always comes through. And you said it best. Like, the numbers aren't going to, if you box score watch this, and a lot of the casual college football fans who like to knock JJ McCarthy certainly do, you're going to say maybe a subpar game for JJ, or he's not the reason they're winning games. Still, JJ McCarthy, time and time again, the heartbeat of this team, gets it done.
And there's just not a quarterback in the Harbaugh era that I think wins these type of games from. And again, like everybody just kind of coming up big when they needed to. I thought Sharon Moore, I think people wanted to get after him a little bit for, frankly, both the Maryland game and the Penn State game, especially how they finished those games where it did get a little scared. I mean, you saw, and I don't want to say scared. Scared's not the right word, but got hyper conservative. You saw in the huge moments. I mean, having them throw that pass with Donovan Edwards, calling some passes on some points you would have definitely thought run. I was like so impressed for him, so happy for him. I thought he called a great game. And that's like, again, that was the one worry is how could you withstand some blows and like in the big moments, could you go make big calls? He made huge calls. I thought he coached a heck of a game.
I think you made a phenomenal point. Like, this team answered the bell every single time, right? Ohio State scores a touchdown, ties the football game up. You go right down the field and score a touchdown. And you said it best. Like, Sharon Moore, as an interim head coach, came up massive. One of the stats that I want to take a look at the most, I mean, Ohio State had more first downs. They averaged more yards per play. When it mattered most on fourth down, a couple key gets. Michigan goes 3 for 3. Ohio State, they didn't even attempt a fourth down. Sharon Moore said heading into the game, we are going to be aggressive. And that is exactly what this Michigan team did. And no doubt a storyline in getting this kind of win.
Yeah, and then just not to ignore the fact that this was the best I think the offensive line played. I thought they were pretty good in pass protection. Gave up a little bit of pressure, but I mean those are 4 horses. I think Ohio State's got on the D-line, and they ran the football when they needed to run the football. They had big gains. You saw on fourth down they were able to get movement. Just that's what I think when we all thought our offense, what it would look like, that's what you wanted it to look like. And today they brought it, and they played incredible, even with the center injury. I mean, Trente Jones comes in, plays really, really good football. It's just steel nerves, like that type. Take a punch, give a punch. I don't know. Like, it's just such a fun team to root for. You never saw this with Michigan in a while.
I don't think I've been more, and Dale, you can attest to this. You were watching right next to me. I don't think I've been more fired up in my history of being a college football fan than when Zach Zinner goes down. They go to that long commercial break. The crowd's chanting his name, and kind of it goes silent for a little bit because Zach Zinner, I mean, he came back for this game. He came back to win a national championship, and obviously an ugly-looking injury. The next play, you run for a 22-yard touchdown. Like goosebumps like that, and that's kind of like embodies what this team's about. And Dill, you have to give props to Ohio State. Like, this Ohio State team, especially on defense, is absolutely nails. I mean, it was like slow pickings against or running the football for a large part of that game. And I thought Michigan played really well. Like, that was one of the better offensive performances we've seen from Michigan. And they only mustered up 30 points, only 339 yards total, because that Ohio State defense under Jim Knowles is one of the best defensive units in the country. Dill, I want to focus our attention now to the defensive side of the ball because, again, it's been the best defense in the country, and it absolutely showed out tonight, especially when the moment was the brightest.
Yeah, and they gave up, I think 2 drives essentially come to my mind that, like, we're like, oh, that wasn't a great drive. But they answered. Again, like what we're kind of talking about. You go out, you give up that horrible drive, it felt like, where they ran the ball pretty much every time. And then the next drive, you go get a 3 and out and create, again, that momentum that Michigan then kind of took and won that game. And then obviously Rod Moore, just a pro. Sandra still such a pro. I mean, just coming up with the big plays where they needed when Sandra still rocking Travion.
Mikey Sandra before, 100% agree, before the half. And they kind of leaked that out. And Mikey Sandra just comes up, lays the wood, forces it to be a 52-yard field goal. They end up missing it. Michigan carries a 4-point lead in the half. Like, those kind of plays, the pros, the guys who came back for another year, making those kind of plays, you love to see it. Rod Moore, most of the Michigan fans who've listened to me know how I feel about Rod Moore. It seems like every time there's a play to be made, that dude is in the right spot at the right time and making that play. And Will Johnson, I know, goes down with an injury, gives up some stuff to Marvin Harrison Jr. That play to open up that game, set up that touchdown, and that was arguably one of the game-winning plays.
I mean, that, like, from there, they never really got the lead, I don't think. That was, like, very much a game-changing play. That's why Will Johnson, I mean, he had, like, almost an identical play against Purdue, jumping those slant routes, making those huge plays. Yeah, just, again, like, doing what like you just always wanted for so long with Harbaugh's teams, is to make the big plays and show some nerve. And just the last couple of years, it's just they're making them. Rod Moore, you mentioned, one of those guys in that Penn State game a year ago, coming in, or actually you could throw it back 2 years as a freshman, coming in and making a huge play. It's just like, these guys are just winners. It's so fun to root for them. I love watching it so much. He's been the best 3 years.
That was such a fun matchup, Will Johnson and Marvin Harrison Jr., because, like, Will Johnson, arguably the best cornerback in the country, going up against not only the best wide receiver in the country, but the best player in the country. Looking back at that game, they probably should have gone to Marvin Harrison Jr. more. And I know Michigan was trying to take it away, but I mean, most targets he caught besides that interception. I think whenever Marvin Harrison Jr. was targeted, big things happened for Ohio State. And I do want to give a shout out to Julian Fleming. He came up with some massive plays, and he's a guy that he kind of gets buried in the depth chart a little bit. I still think he's a great wide receiver. He doesn't transfer out, doesn't go anywhere else. And when Ohio State needed him, you have to give a lot of credit to Julian Fleming. And quite frankly, Kyle McCord got off to a rocky start on the road in a big-time environment. And I thought he really kind of played a very good last 3 quarters of that football game. Dill, one other thing I want to talk about here is that pass rush. It was hard because Ohio State was really balanced and they were running the football well. And Travion Henderson, again, one of the better running backs in the country. But when it was time to tee up and kind of get after that pass rusher, it was Jalen Harrell, a guy that, I mean, how fitting is that? One of the most unsung players on this Michigan team the last couple years. He's been a hammer in the run game, puts on a pass rush move, hits Kyle McCord as he's throwing it. Rod Moore picks it off, I should say. I mean, just a complete fitting way to end that football game.
Yeah, just all the the guys who came back making big-time plays. Offensive line, get a bunch of guys back, go make huge plays. Trevor Keegan obviously played a great game. All the transfers up front played a great game. Michael Barrett, I thought, when he was in, the one time they took him out and had it, they kind of exploited that matchup, obviously, and then he comes back in. He just a guy who's improved so much. There's just not much I can say. I love this group of older players on this Michigan team. They've brought this program back. They're winners, and forever indebted to them.
They've 100%, as fans, they've changed that narrative, right? The Trevor Keegans, the Zach Zinners, the Blake Corms, the Mikey Barretts, the Mikey Sandstros. The list is on and on of these guys who most of them would be playing in the NFL, playing on Sundays right now. They came back to win this football game, to win a Big Ten championship, and overall to win a national championship. And Dill, the way Michigan played here, get a little quick look ahead, embrace the moment, enjoy the moment, but a quick look ahead. I mean, got Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. Take care of business there. This is a team that just beat an Ohio State team that I still think is one of the best teams in the country. And you look at Michigan, and if they can continue this level and continue to get better and get healthy, this is a Michigan team that it feels different. Last year felt different. The year before, you kind of met your maker with Georgia Bulldogs. Last year felt like you were building. This is the crescendo. Like, I think that's the right term. Not
and
totally
Jimmy's
sure.
back, not to mention we're getting Harbaugh back. It's Michigan versus everybody. They're coming to stomp people out, and yeah, I can't wait. I'm just so excited for everything going forward. It's so fun.
Boys are fired up. We'll talk more about this game later on this week, but had to hop on, talk a little bit about the emotions. Massive win. Michigan fans, enjoy it. Boys are fired up. Time to go watch a little bit of the Iron Bowl. Appreciate y'all rocking with the boys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. The Michigan fans, you guys have shown a ton of love to the boys. Can't thank you guys enough, and we'll talk to y'all later.